Alright, hello, welcome back. Today we're talking about the tribal faction. Just a real quick note, sorry I haven't been recording videos more. I was sick for a little bit and I didn't feel like recording when I was sick because my voice sounded terrible. But yeah, so now we're back. So, the tribal faction. So last video we made a tier list and I said I would go over all the individual factions. So I'm going to do that. So first up is the tribal faction. Alright, so let's just take a look. We have a clubber, protector, the spear thrower, the stoner, the bone mage, the chieftain, and the big boss unit, the mammoth. Let's go and take a look at these guys one by one. So let's start off with the clubber. 70 gold, 70 points, I guess, to spend on him. And for 70 gold, he's very weak. I think he's probably one of the worst units in the game for his price. I found that most of the time farmers can beat him, the same price, and also that sometimes painters can even beat him. So yeah, he's definitely a bad unit. I never use this unit. There's always better options. Definitely put the clubber in the unusable tier. I think they need to do something with him. Maybe give him a special ability, or maybe just more damage or more tankiness. You can make him like a slightly bigger unit or something. I don't know, just add some variety. But right now, he's just like a bad squire. He's just like a horrible squire. I mean, that's all there is to him. So some people would say that he's like more of a swarming unit, which I guess can be the case, but he's a very expensive swarming unit and he doesn't do his job very well, especially because he misses attacks a lot. And if they're just swarming like a big boss unit, they're extremely susceptible to any kind of ranged fire, so they easily go down that way. So there's the clubber's horrible unit. Next, we go into the protectors. A shield. Ooh. Sorry, what? Tabs. Tribal. Alright, next we go into the protectors. A shield unit. I'd say they're okay. They're alright for their job. You see only one arrow per each shield and this guy takes one. Why is that? Well, it's because all their feet are exposed and their arms are oftentimes very exposed, not to mention the little hole in their shield as well, which allows them to be easily sniped and killed. So yeah, definitely not as useful as just the only 10 points more shield bearer unit, which is a much better unit. I think unless you're really trying to cut down on costs, like you have like no money at all, great. Thanks for helping my example here. Then I would never use a protector unit. There's just better options. It's like the clubber. There's just better options which are almost at the same price. Okay, so protector, not very useful unit in my opinion. I definitely put them at like a C. Next we have like a spear thrower, a nice range unit. I actually think this is one of the better units of the tribal faction. They do a lot of damage. And they're high damage, but however they have like no range, and then they have a long reload. So there's that. But I think they're definitely worth it. They're the cheapest. I'm pretty sure that they're the cheapest range unit in the game. But if we put them farther back, you can see that they struggle with actually hitting other units. Well, they also have bad accuracy, but they're just they don't have the good range. They don't have any range. They had to get pretty close to fire, which is kind of unfortunate. I guess there it is. Oh, something messed up. Okay, so I'd say they're probably B tier. Sometimes they're useful. Actually, I just learned that if you put a row of spear throwers equal to like the mammoth's cost, they will actually win. So that's an interesting fact. Like I'm pretty sure they should kill the mammoth, and I think you can actually like subtract 1 or 2 and it'll still work. So it just shows how much damage they have. But usually unless you have a really long battle, they're not gonna throw more than like twice. Okay, so next unit, the Stoner. If you thought the spear thrower's range was bad, check out these guys. Let's actually do a comparison. Let's see who stops first. We'll put a row of these guys here. Not you. I didn't want you there. And we'll see which one has to stop first to throw. And am I wrong? Yeah. Okay. So it's not too much of a difference. Maybe just like one full-size unit. But the spear thrower already has some pretty bad range. And the Stoner also has a high reload rate, although they're usually not going to miss unless the units they're throwing at are very fast. And also, the rocks are actually shields. They are an object, so if an arrow hits them, they will be stopped. And there we go. Oops. I didn't really want that. Okay, alright, well, there goes our example. But as you can see, I shot an arrow at him, and the stone blocked it. I don't see it happen too often, but it just is something cool to note. So I'd say the Stoner's definitely C tier. Never really use him. I think he's supposed to be like a crowd control unit. I just don't think he does his job very well, and if you have melee units in front, they're very likely to be killed in the process. Because he doesn't have a throwing arc like at all, he just throws it forward. So your units are going to be hit as well. Another thing with the spear thrower is that yes, they are going to kill your units because they don't have an extremely high arc either. Kind of like sorry, what was it? They don't have a very high throwing arc either, like compared to some other range units. So a lot of friendly fire with these two. I'd say Stoner is probably C tier for me. Next is probably the best unit in the tribal faction, one I actually find myself using pretty often, and that is the Bone Mage. They're susceptible to range, but they do amazing area damage, even if the units are just in a line. See, like each of them killed probably 3. But if they're like 2 or 3 ranks deep, then you'll definitely be doing a ton of damage. But another thing, these guys will do a ton of damage to friendly units. So place them in the front of your army with maybe a protector or shield bearer in front to absorb incoming ranged fire. Kind of like this, if there are like ranged units on the team, but you didn't want your expensive melee units to be hurt or killed, that's how you would do it. So next unit, I definitely say that Bone Mage is A tier. The next unit on our list is the Chieftain, of two-handed melee unit. Pretty bad, pretty horrible. I never really use this unit because he's not very good. He's not good at taking out like big boss units, and he's not even good at taking out poor little clubbers. I don't know what to use him for. He just feels like an expensive clubber. Sometimes he can do really well, but he just doesn't have the health to really do a lot of damage. Like here, he did great, but that was like 50 less than his cost. And you see, if we just put one more clubber on the end, then they killed him. And they probably could with this setup too, if you got just a little bit of luck. So definitely D unit. I never use him. He's pretty bad. And so the last one on our list is the Mammoth, the big boss unit. As already illustrated, while he used to be tanky early on, now he's not so tanky. You can easily take him out, and he gets so annoying. When he dies, actually, he's like an object. So you are gonna find that he absorbs like incoming and outcoming range fire that's coming from your lines and outside of enemy lines. Oh my goodness. From both sides, basically. He's going to absorb shots, which is unfortunate. It can be good sometimes, but usually it's really annoying because your units will just get stuck behind him, and you have to wait for him to sink into the ground, which kind of takes a little bit. So I don't think he's very good. He can trample like low health units, and he's just like a big tank. Except there are units that I feel like do his job better in terms of damage and tankiness, like maybe the Samurai or Tree Giant, or maybe just not having him at all. I usually find that I don't need a tank in most of my battles, and that especially if you're just doing the vanilla campaign, you're gonna be hard pressed to find a place where you want to use the Mammoth. And I think that concludes it. I'm just gonna say that the Tribal faction is definitely the weakest faction out of all of them. It's definitely probably a D tier. I don't find myself using a ton of the units. Probably the Bone Mage and the Spear Thrower are the most used on my list. But yeah, so thank you for watching, and adios.